For a large portion of my career, I spanned a role called a competitive overlay. This was a strategic role that spanned the disciplines between customer success and new logo sales. And this was for enterprise software companies. What's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of Forward to Extraordinary. Just me for today. A little bit of a solo episode, but I have a topic on my mind that I figured I'd have a little bit of a conversation about. It's more of a contemplation. And it's a topic that I think that there are levels to. And the topic is, what does it look like to have competition in business? You know, for a large portion of my career, it feels large. It's just for a couple of years, actually. I spanned a role called a competitive overlay. This was a strategic role that spanned the disciplines between customer success and new logo sales. And this was for enterprise software companies. I've had the privilege of working with some of the most recognizable brands on the planet. And for the MarTech SaaS company that I was working for, called BrightEdge, I had this role. And there were a few other individuals that also had this role during my 6 years working at BrightEdge. And it was a very strategic position. I had to learn not only everything about the product for the company that I worked for, but also everything about all of the competitor products, tools, platforms that were in the space. And the goal was, when customers or prospective new logos had questions, concerns, had, detractions, all sorts of reasons why they might express concern around using our platform versus somebody else's solution. Somebody like me would parachute in and make the case or, educate away from making decisions that were other than participating with our business. That competitive overlay position was responsible not only for landing new logos at an alarmingly high rate, but also defending, protecting, and retaining existing customers at the absolute highest level, all at a moment where they consider maybe a different vendor. And you have to imagine, like, the cost of these vendors is not insignificant. So anywhere where there could be a cost savings or a new feature that maybe the service didn't provide, or some list of reasons why somebody may consider moving away from our product to a different competitor product. You can understand why the competitive overlay role, this is a strategic position. Okay, like, not only was I an expert of the domain and the product that I was working for, but I also had to be an expert of the industry, of the competition, of their roadmaps. And it felt more of like a spy, an experience of espionage, trying to position and convince existing customers and new logos to choose us. You know, that position never really leaves my brain as I run my own business. But the idea of competition is extremely different in small business. I don't have competitors. I really don't. I never hear about competition in our sales calls, even if our prospective customers are considering other agencies, other builders to potentially work with. They're as big as us, maybe smaller, maybe slightly bigger, but they're relatively inconsequential. There really is no competition. I'm either the right guy for the job based on lots of things, mostly emotion, or I'm not. But what I do see are strategic partners. What I do see are other businesses and other thought leaders that are doing similar work to what we are doing, and the opportunity to support each other, to evangelize each other, to operate with shared struggle. It doesn't feel like competition. It feels like allied forces. It feels like I'm on this journey with these other founders, other owners and operators, other technical individuals, and like, yo, these are my peers till like the end of our time. There's no competition. There's no bad blood. Nobody's pointing fingers at anybody. I have yet to see another brand that I have a personal relationship with in the agency sector compete for the same deal that I'm competing for. There's just so much work out there. Even if your leads and pipelines feel like they're a little bit slim, there is still so much work out there that the opportunity to overlap with a strategic allied agency, it like has never happened. In 9 years that I've been running this business, it has never happened. I have never seen a deal contemplate one of my friends, my allies at the goal line. And so why do I bring this topic up? At some layer, at some level, there is competition. I mean, in my world, like the easiest one to take a look at is like AWS versus Azure versus GCP. That's just like a big one. You don't think that they have like guys that are like me, girls that are like me, way more talented than I ever was, that are strategically positioned in what's called a competitive overlay, somebody that spans new logos and client retention. And like, they probably have entire teams, not just an individual, entire teams of people that are positioned for this type of a role. So at some point, that competitive perspective, being a student of the entire competitive landscape and being able to parachute in to support a deal, at some point that's incredibly important. But in small business, you should not be really thinking about competition. We should be thinking about strategic allies. We should be thinking about leveraging each other's networks. We should be thinking about providing extended services or new opportunities, or sharing a stage together, or partnering in networking opportunities, or joining our podcasts for each other, or co-writing books, or co-authoring long-form papers, or whatever. Like, why is the mentality not we're stronger together? And so this is just a contemplation. Like, it's something for everybody to maybe think a little bit deeply about. But if I really think about my journey and what makes a customer successful, it's not this like rabid parachute of like, oh, you're thinking about leaving, I'm going to run all these save plays now and try to figure out how to detract you away from the competition and, beat our chest and make all sorts of promises and et cetera, et cetera. Customer success, and dare I say a customer experience, pushing towards what would feel like customer excellence, that's all the work that happens constantly every single day. It's not this moment in time where, the spidey senses trigger, my account is now red, and I have to descend on this customer with all of my might at the 11th hour to try and save them. That like is not a thing in small business, especially in agency business. My customers are here for our pursuit of mastery. They're here for my energy, for our vibe. They're here because somewhere along the line, we mapped to their ethos, to their ethics, to their values. And so if that doesn't continue to happen day over day, if that doesn't happen in ways that are hard to quantify, it's an emotional experience in small business. They could choose any number of small businesses. They could go overseas if they're looking for a price hack. They could go to, the next town over to look for somebody with a fresh perspective. They could go across the country to look for somebody that maybe, has different working hours or whatever. There's a million different reasons why somebody may not choose me and why they might choose somebody else. I don't see those people as competitors. I see that as a learning opportunity. I see that as, okay, well, what are they doing differently from what we're doing? And should I be evolving our offering or improving our service to try and meet the moment? I don't really see competition at this level. I see strategic partnerships. I see businesses and founders that are very similar to my story, where they broke the golden handcuffs. They left careers behind to try and pursue a better life for themselves, to try and, carve out their opportunity in history to exist. And so, as I always do, I wish you forward to extraordinary. I hope that any builders that are out there, builders of businesses, builders of technology, businesses of marketing motions, of customer motions, of, anything that makes a business run, I hope you think about it differently. I hope you think about it a little bit like how I'm trying to reconcile with it, which is the idea of competition is made for the big leagues. And when you're a little bit smaller, when you're a lot smaller, it's more about strategic growth, strategic partnerships, strategic networking opportunities, about supporting each other in what feels like a really difficult industry, difficult time to exist in the world. And so I wish you forward to extraordinary.